So many performers, entertainers have their start in church, Christmas plays and concerts. Today's guest is no exception. But he chose a rather circuitous route to become a recording artist. The man is really a banker, who in 2008 resuscitated his innate talent as an entertainer. The early years of his life were a real balancing act. Seems that laid the foundation for banking, banking, balancing accounts, balancing books. Okay, don't get me. Now, bank manager Don Reed can confidently say, I know who I am. This is Profile. I am Faye Ellington. When we get to that point in life when we can say, I know who I am, you know you've got to a place where you can be confident in yourself. Don Reed, thank you for joining me.
Oh, you're very much welcome, Faye.
I know who I am. That's a short film, as you put it.
Yes.
But who is Don Reed?
Well, Don Reed, as the short film says, is someone that is coming from the annals of humility. Very, very, very humble beginnings, poor even much. Overcome a lot of challenges in my early childhood. Found a career as a banker from 16 years old till now.
Thanks to the National Commercial Bank.
At the biggest and best bank in Jamaica.
And you're still with them?
Oh, yes.
Where are you now?
Well, I manage the two branches in St. Mary currently, which are Port Maria and Annotto Bay.
And you were in Kingston at one time, you were in Savannah.
Oh, yes, I've been...
had some very important things to do with banking. But before we continue on banking, let's go back to Don Reed. When he was 2 years old, something happened in your life. What happened?
Right. Well, at 2 years old, my mom gave me to a total stranger because of challenges that, domestic-related challenges. It turned out that her new gentleman didn't want to have another man's child raising. So, she, out of necessity, she had to find a stranger who would take me.
How did she find that person?
Apparently, she had a friend who knew of this lady called Miss Louise in Claremont Center, and God bless her soul, who had raised about 3 other children before that were not her own. And they were all successful. So her friend knew about Miss Louise and told her about her, and so they decided to bring me as a baby to Claremont to give to Miss Louise.
You were born in Kingston?
I was born in Kingston.
You had some affiliation with parts of St. Catherine before you went over
Yes,
to
Old Harbour, right.
Now, what are your earliest memories of Miss Lou? Louise?
My earliest memories of Miss Lou was this day that I was brought to her.
At 2, you remember?
Yes, I have a photographic memory, so I can remember almost in very graphic detail everything that has happened in my life from 2 years old till now. In fact, I'm writing a book, and I have it all stored in the images in my head right now.
Could you go ahead?
Right, but my first memory of her really was that Saturday afternoon, a rainy Saturday afternoon, being handed over to her, in almost naked, with nothing but a plastic bag, a clear plastic bag.
How did she take care of you?
Oh, Miss Lou she was an awesome cook. So, I loved her so much. I look forward to all my meals. I mean, she cooked almost for the community, and her business was run in the cook shop in the market in Claremont St. Anne. So she not only cooked, but she also baked. So she had a showcase, we call them a showcase in those days, with gizzards and drops and something that we call cut cake, which is a flat. Oh, you know about cut cake? With cut cake and coconut biscuit. So, and then jackass corn, and then on Sundays she would make this sweet potato pudding with what they call fire top, fire bottom, and hallelujah in between. Of course, on Sunday nights, by Monday morning, because the pudding always slept in my room overnight.
Oh.
So on Monday morning, half of it would have been disappeared because there was always a big rat in the house,
Oh, was that rat gone?
a 2-foot rat.
But so she took care of you, but it was a little challenging. How you get clothes and
It was. Well, Miss Louise had a daughter who lived next door, and her daughter was fairly well off, married to, her husband was somebody who was seen in bauxite in those days. So fairly well off. So they had 5 children, one very close in age to me, but bigger in body. So every year I would get whatever khaki he had the year before for school, I would get those. So that's what I would wear the year after he has finished with them. Of course, they were much bigger than me. So everybody knew me as a little boy with the big clothes. So when I'm coming on the breeze, in the pants, you just hear me coming up the street, whop, whop, whop with the breeze. In the pants,
What was life like at Claremont College?
Oh, Claremont College has dear memories for me. I mean, everybody knew my history. It's a small community, but everybody knew me as a little bright boy who was given away. And so when I was going to school, every evening, every afternoon after school, there were some men on the piazzas in Claremont, in the town. And I could not pass without them stopping me and giving me money to read the Star for them. Oh. Right? So when I started Claremont College at 6 and 7, I was, big words like encyclopedia and those words and stuff, which they were quite amazed that I could read and spell at that level.
Did Miss Lou assist you with this, reading?
No, it was innate. I spent a lot of time reading. I love to read. So I spent a lot of time reading because I didn't have much entertainment in those days. So, I spent Reader's Digest, Archie, Bob's the Twins, the Hardy Boys. I must have read every single one of those publications in those times. So my vocabulary grew up quite a lot.
Were you a good student academically?
Yes, I was somewhat, but I lost my way at some stage in high school in the early years.
Before you reached high school, at Claremont College, you were good there.
Oh yes, I was in spelling bee. I was the champion speller in every grade. And some persons were always trying to compete with me, but I would never have it. I was never going to relinquish my crown in a year at all.
So Miss Lou saw that you went to church.
Right.
Which church was this?
Oh, St. Matthew's Anglican Church.
And that is where some of the performing started?
Oh, that is where I started at very early age, started on stage, singing, always having the lead roles in their performing arts, productions,
Can you remember any
harvest.
of the songs you would do as a child when you're 10 or 9?
Well, I remember the hymns that Miss Lou used to sing, because she used to sing quite a lot around the house. Oh Lord, my God, when I am in awesome wonder.
Oh Lord, my God.
When I'm in awesome wonder.
When I'm in awesome wonder. I think you're coming with the bass.
Yes.
Yeah.
And of course, on Christ is solid rock I stand. Whenever I hear those two hymns, it just melts my heart, because it brings me back to Miss Lou going around the house, doing her baking, doing her cooking and singing those songs.
And then when you're at school too, you became a part of festival.
Oh yes. I remember, as you talk about festival, so in grade 2 at Claremont College, I had the lead role in the festival production that year called a Nancy. So I was a Nancy. And we won the regional finals. And we came to Kingston for the national finals, and we placed second. I thought we should have won, but that for me was my earliest venture into the performing arts. Right?
What were the chores you had to do at home?
Oh, chores! My childhood was chores non-stop, and it wasn't ordinary chores. It was quite akin to back in the days when you really had it. I don't want to say slavery, but quite a lot of hard chores. So the one I hated the most was beating coffee in a mortar. So Miss Lou used to have all these coffee trees. We used to grow them, ripen them, dry them, pick them, dry them, and then parch them. After they're parched now, you put them into this big mortar, and you'll see the video. And for hours, and you have to grind it until it becomes coffee dust. So that's how the coffee was made. So a lot of people even now ask me, you go to the gym? But no, I don't work out. But from those days of hours and hours of just beating with that heavy mortar stick, built my body and built my physique.
Did you have to pay attention to goats?
Yes, I had to. Well, one of the main sources of income that Miss Lou had was raising pigs. So my job was to make sure that pig pen was always clean, the pigs were fed. Not only that, I had to pick up what we call cabbage bush in the market. So that's the persons from St. Elizabeth who brought cabbage to sell. I had to walk and pick up the the bush, the excess that they clean off the cabbages, put them into a big crocus bag, put them on my head, and then go and feed the pigs. Not only cabbage, but banana peel, anything that was in the market.
The boiled banana peel.
Right, so that was part of my job, and all of that without barefooted. I also had to go to the bush to cut wood for fire because we didn't have stove. We didn't have a stove. What we had was wood fire.
You became well-rounded and fit.
Well-rounded and fit.
Don Reed is my guest. He's a bank manager with the National Commercial Bank. He has worked with them for 28 years. When we come back, we're going to hear about Fern Court High School and what is entertainment life now, because I'm take it on big. We'll be right back. We're hearing about Don Reed and his early life. We've heard about his life as a youngster at Claremont All-Age, and with Miss Lou, who was so wonderful to you, to raise you after you were given away when you were 2 years old. You went to Fern Court High School. Is that the school you chose, or you were placed there?
No, in those days, Fern Court High School was the school to aspire to, because it was in the community. So every child's dream in those days was, was to go to Claremont All-Age, and then to pass your common entrance and head to Fern Court High School.
Who was the principal then?
Miss Sharon Kelly. I think
she was an excellent
easily the best principal to have passed through Fern Court.
What were your years like at Fern Court?
Well, the first years were very rocky. So, I passed, incidentally, I got my birth certificate. I was unregistered up to the night, on the eve of my common entrance. I got my birth certificate. And in fact, the last name that I had now is not my father's last name. It's actually my mother's last name. But I got my birth certificate the night of common entrance at 10 years old, just in time. So I passed my common entrance, went to Fern Court. So at this time, I started to become more aware of myself, wondering what's my identity. All I'm seeing around me is Miss Lou, but I'm not seeing any blood relatives. I'm not seeing no mother, no father. So I started to have all these questions in my head. I would spend days at school under the big tree, just staring in isolation, wondering who I am, who am I? And, so I found acceptance in a friend. I will not withhold his name. And he embraced me. Unfortunately, he was a time waster. So I started to waste time as well. So I didn't really know work in first form. Ended up in those days, they had a system where the brighter students were placed in one class, and then you were grouped according to your work in the previous form for second form. So I ended up in what they call the dunce class. I used to make a joke that the class was so dunce that there were 38 of us. I did no exams and came 19th. So apparently they had placed with my last name. That's just a joke that I used to make. But on the summer after second form ended, the principal expelled my closest friend and called in Miss Louise, because the principal and her used to go to the same church, the St. Matthew's Anglican Church. And she knew of my exploits in performing arts and recitation, so she knew I was not a dunce by any means. She told Miss Lou that, listen, we're going to give Donovan a chance. If he doesn't show any improvement by the Christmas term in third form, he's out. So that was enough for me. In that Christmas term, I came first in almost every subject in my class. So much so that I finished on top of the class for that year and was placed in my class of choice, which was, for fourth form, was the sciences, which was where most of the brightest students had aspired to in fourth form. And that is where I really came into my own, because in that class, you didn't have much, if any, time wasters. It was very competitive, and it really drove me to lift my performance to a higher standard, so much so that I ended up being on the school's challenge quiz on JBC in those days.
Yes.
In fact, that was the last quiz held that was moderated by Dennis Hall at the time, when the students were at South Odeon Avenue. I ended up captaining the Fern Court table tennis team. I was on the science exhibition team that came to Hilton every year. At those days, it was the Wyndham Hotel. I also was on did I say chess?
No.
Yes, I was also on the chess club.
No
in
football?
The chess team.
No,
because when I expressed interest in football and athletics, Miss Lou said, no. I didn't say I go to school. I never said I go to school, go play no football and kick the ball, boy. Dear book. So I lost interest in representing the school in those. But academically, it was where.
When you graduated with most of the sciences.
I graduated in 1991, and incidentally, I need to share this with you. So in the summer, you graduate and then you're waiting on the 6C results. Now I was so nervous. I didn't want to go for my results. But anyway, a friend of mine came and said, listen, I'm going for my results. So now, come, you're not going for yours. I said, boy, no, man, you go ahead. And the friend, forced me. When I reached the foot of the hill, because the school is on a hill, I see all the vendors, about 6 of them, running down the hill to come and hug me up and kiss me. I said, oh, because they all knew Miss Lou, because they were vendors as well. And I said, boy, I'm so proud of you, Donovan. I'm so proud of her. And the school was advertising the results. So it ended up that I passed all of my subjects and finished as joint top student at valedictorian, at graduation ceremony.
Everybody needs another chance, eh?
Everybody needs another chance. So that's my success story in terms of Fern Court.
After Fern Court, what happened?
Well, before Fern Court, in the summer of third form, I had a near-death experience. So I was swimming, I went to the beach in Chores at 13 years old, went out into the deep, got in difficulties, and was unconscious for about 2 days. Woke up in the hospital, so I spent about a week in the hospital. And the entire community thought that was it, because I was really unconscious. I'd taken in so much water that I was unconscious for about 2 days.
Well, your life has been a balancing act.
Right.
You left Fern Court. Did you know what you wanted to do or where you wanted to go?
Yeah, well, when I was firm in my mind that I wanted to become a doctor from a very early age. But why I wanted to become a doctor? Because there was this man in Claremont from an early age, when I was a young boy, he used to give me money. And he said to me, listen, you see, if when you grow up, you don't turn a doctor, I'm going to shoot you. So that is why I wanted to become a doctor. But when I left Fern Court in the summer, I went to the hospital to do work experience because I wanted to become a doctor. Now, that changed my perspective 100%. I decided I couldn't be any doctor. I couldn't stand the whole operations and conditions associated with the hospital. So I changed my mind immediately. When the summer job ended, I applied for permanent position at the hospital in the administrative offices, and I was successful, So this lady, I'd never forget, after about 3 months, this lady came to me and said, come here, little man, sit down. I said, listen, nobody feels you're going to stay here and sit down here like we, You get out your pen and a paper, and she made me write 3 job applications. 1 to Scotiabank, 1 to Cable and Wireless, so it was Jamaica Telephone Company at the time, and 1 to National Commercial Bank. NCB was the first that responded. And when I went at 16 years old, 4 feet 6 inches and 73 pounds, went to that interview. After I sat in front of the manager, and he was just, awed and at the way I was able to deliver myself. And at the end of it, I'll never forget, his name is Lincoln McIntyre. He retired as a senior executive of the bank several years ago. And he said to me, little man, you're very young, but you're very intelligent, so I'm going to give you a chance. And he gave me that opportunity at 16 years old. I had to run cash as a teller on a beer box because I couldn't see over the counter.
But you had malnutrition issues when you were much younger, so that could have been
right.
Why you were as tiny as you were. But we're going to take a break now and come back to hear about bank, yes, about entertainment.
Right.
Don Reed is my special guest, and we're talking about his life. Of course, you just heard about how he started with the National Commercial Bank, and he's been there in banking for 28 years. We'll be right back. Just listening to Don Reed, banker, tell his story, you know that you should never really give up on yourself, push, and you always need somebody in your corner. Miss Lou was your person at that very, very early start.
Oh, definitely.
But after you left high school, a year after she was gone, how you dealt with that?
Yes, she died as if by divine design. She died 1 year after I got that job with the bank at 17 years old, and I've been on my own since that.
The bank. What were the positions and the branches you worked with?
Right. So I started out as a teller, but within every 2 years, I was blessed enough to have gotten a promotion. So I worked at almost every position in the branch, from teller to customer service supervisor, foreign exchange supervisor, loans officer, senior loans officer, manager's assistant. At the St. Anne's branch of NCB where I joined, until I'd exhausted all positions at the branch. So I got a promotion to head office at 32 Trafalgar Road at the Atrium, where I went into credit and risk as a credit officer. Then when Michael Leaching bought the bank, they were headhunting for a young, bright person who would drive their loan products, consumer loan products. And so I was invited and
so you have that as part of your legacy.
Oh yes, that's where I made my name, I think, in NCB, because I launched the most successful unsecured loan product to date that, still earns the bank a lot of revenue.
Listening to you just a pro. So look here now. High, all age at Claremont, church, singing, and then you just give it up, and then all of a sudden in 2008 it came back.
Right.
What started you back in entertainment?
Well, what started it, I'm an online blogger, and I also have a very comedic side. So I call myself a social commentator. So I take real life issues and I put a humorous twist to them and post them online. So that earned me quite a bit of followers. On Father's Day in 2017, the eve of Father's Day on a Saturday, I posted, Father's Day still keeping? Oh, I don't say anything, no big promotion. One of my followers said, write a song about it, man. Now this person didn't know anything about me musically. I sat down, penned a song to Ed Sheeran at the song popular time, Shape of You, and mixed it with Aisha on Equal Rights and did a song. What happened to the fathers? We no want to feel special too. Excitement in a me, but I pay a long mouth in a June. Every Mother's Day, we no don't have we pay. No our Father's Day, but you not treat the same way. We want equal rights and justice. Mother's Day gone, we broke with. So I did that, recorded my phone, put it out, and it got thousands of views. Now, that's not what really launched my career though. In a year after that, I was hospitalized. I spent about 3 days in the St. Anne's hospital. So while I was in there, I was saying to my followers, boy, peer corruption, because them giving the next patient more food than me. And then I complained to the matron, and out of spite, she discharged me the next day just before dinner time. So when I came out, I did a song called Hospital Food. And I called up my longtime friend, Danny Brown, who is a veteran producer. And Danny rearranged it. We rewrote the lyrics, put it out, and before I knew it, I was at Smile Jamaica performing. I was at RJR and road shows.
Could we talk about, you'd also just list the place. You went overseas to perform.
Yes, I also went to tour up in the North America, the tri-state area in South Florida. That was, I'd done Courts, followed up with a song called Courts is my biggest hit to date.
And we can find all of those on your YouTube
On my
channel.
YouTube and social media. Donreid, D-O-N-R-E-I-D.
And of course, this last one done in January 2020, which is I
Know Who I Am.
Did you ever meet your mother again and your father?
Yes, I met her at 24 years old. She turned up at my bank at my office and said, hi, I'm your mom. My father has died and I want you to come to eulogize him. No, I don't know her, I don't know him. So anyway, I went to the funeral, and that was the first time I was seeing any blood relatives at all in my life. And it turned out that I lost contact with her and then reconnected. I spoke with her about 3 or 4 times, then I heard she died. And I went to the funeral, spoke at the funeral, and that gave me some release. But I had hardly known her up to the point of her death. I've never seen my father. I heard he died in 2001.
But you have your own family now.
Oh, yes. I have 3 beautiful kids, and they are my tower. They are all I have, and so I try to pour a lot into them. First and second form in high school and a baby.
Right. How are you on the bank work out, you on your entertainment side?
Incidentally, our leaders, NCB, is not conventional in their thinking. They allow employees to pursue their passions as long as it's not conflicting in content and time with your substantive duties. And my profession as an artist doesn't conflict anyway. Plus, my material is not anything that's going to place the bank in disrepute. Plus, as our managing director, Patrick Hilton, his favorite quote, which actually inspired me, he said, make no little plans. They have no magic to stir men's blood, and probably themselves will not be achieved. Make big plans, aim high in hope and work, remembering that a noble logical diagram, once recorded, will never die, but long after we're gone, will be a living thing, asserting itself with ever-growing insistency.
Patrick Hilton's words?
That's his favorite quote. He
And you
lives
remember
by
it word for word?
Because when he said it the first time he spoke with addressed us as a management team, it inspired me so much that, I went and it allowed me to pour more into what I did at work, but also to pursue my passion as a performer.
Thank you for sharing your passion. God bless you and your family. And please, if you have not yet seen it, go and look for I Know Who I Am and Courts and Hospital Food. And there'll be much more. Thank you for watching. Next week, same time, I'll be back, God willing. So, what good now? Hey.
Well done.
Listen, we've got a lot in this.